Hello, dear She's. Welcome and thank you for joining me for our second He for She conversation in this community. Now, He for She, they play a very significant and also very symbolic role in our community, very clearly stating our stand, which is He for She and She for He. So it's a huge privilege to have these three ambassadors with us of different ages, different walks of life to come in to support our community with the male perspective. So today we're going to have a chat with our second he for she ambassador, which you have seen the overlay, the picture right in the beginning of this show, and that's basically Mervin with two of his precious daughters. So now, please help me to welcome Mervin. Hi, Mervin. Or let me unmute
Hey,
you.
hey, hi.
Welcome.
Thanks for
So
having me
Mervin,
here.
thank you for saying yes and thank you for showing up. So this is your first appearance in the She community. Wow.
No, that's true, actually. Yes.
I finally managed to capture this man who has such a busy schedule with not just his work but also with his volunteer work as well. So thank
Mm.
you so much, Kevin. I know that you're a very busy man, so many things on your plate, and also being a father yourself. Yet you agreed and you said yes to be our he for she ambassador. So I'm really thankful to you.
Mm. I mean, it is a privilege to be invited to be on this platform as well. Joy, the things that you're doing are actually very wonderful, and I truly believe in them. And I think you're actually helping a lot of people out in the community, through empowerment, perhaps even psychoeducation, and bringing a lot of these topics that we may ignore into the light. So, for myself, these are the same values and things that I believe in. So, yeah, I'm very happy to be here.
Mm. Thank you, Mervin,
Mm.
for acknowledging me. And I also have to say, you yourself are so busy. This person is the co-founder of Homeless Singapore, among many other things that I can't say because it will take up the whole show. It's a very busy person doing very meaningful work. So we know each other because of we're in the same circle, positive psychology. So I've
Mhm.
always known him to be a really awesome person. He has a very challenging time in his life as well. So he definitely know what it means, know how serious and how important well-being is. So now
Mm.
I want to go straight into our conversation. So, Mommy, tell us more about yourself and what is a man like you doing in a woman-centric space in She? How did you get here?
Well, okay, about myself, for those who do not know me, I'm actually a higher education consultant at the School of Positive Psychology. I actually started off as a student there, wanting to go into the field of psychotherapy actually, because I myself actually suffered from depression years ago. And it was a very long process of suffering, all of which I ultimately got out with the help of friends and self therapy and things like that. So that's how I really ended up at the school. I was thinking, all the suffering that I had been through, it shouldn't be for nothing. That my pain should have a purpose of some sort, right? So I sought to become a therapist, a counselor therapist, because I felt that that life's meaning should not just be on material things like money and car and house and all that, but rather how can we build people up? How can we help people to heal, to move forward in their life, to find new purpose in their life and all of that. And that's what really drove me into the School of Positive Psychology. But I would say also the exposure to positive psychology has been wonderful. Like, honestly, I didn't like it at first because clinical psychology, traditional psychology would always be suspicious of anything new, right? And positive psychology is actually it goes against a
Yes.
lot of what's intrinsic. Yeah, because we have this negative bias. We always think that everyone is very mean, selfish. They're out to get you. You have to look after yourself and all that. But
Mm,
positive psychology really shifts the lens. It says that, hey, we can be collaborative. Hey, we can be kind and compassionate, and we can build one another up. Our success doesn't have to come at the cost of someone
mm.
else. You know, and I thought these were such amazing, lovely ideas. And I could see, well, like my friends would say, I have become, and even Robert Diener would say, that I am now a very hopeful and optimistic person, which runs counter to what one would think of someone with depression. And it's not to say
Yeah.
that I'm completely free of it. It does come back once in a while, but you just learn how to manage it. Just like anything else, you just have to learn how to manage it, kind of thing.
Mm.
And moving on to the next part of your question, why am I here? Well, you know best of all, Joy. You invited me. I've heard so much about Joy. Everyone in the school was always like, oh, Joy, blah, blah, blah. And then finally I got to meet her in person, and it was actually quite wonderful getting to meet her in person. And we just kind of instantly connected. We just talk about all sorts of things and all that. And so why am I here? Because I believe in empowerment, and I believe, that women, there's a lot of prejudice, there's a lot of biases against them in our society that is still unfortunately ongoing right now. I mean, things have gotten better, definitely has gotten better over the years, but still, we're not at the end of the race. It's a process, and there's still a lot more that can be done in this area lah. So just having conversations, constructive conversations to talk about such things, to bring it to awareness in people, I think is very critical. And secondly, being able to lend my voice to talk about such topics as well, to introduce a different perspective, and to show that we can stand in solidarity. That it's never about being threatened, or the status quo being affected, but how can we as a community, as a people, build one another up. I think that has to be the way forward for countries, for economies, for societies. That we have to learn how to accept one another, celebrate our differences, and how we can build together a better future for the world and for our children as well. Mm.
Mm. So, Mervin, you have been with She quite honestly since our very beginning, since we started in December. Our very first event was the International Women's Day, and
Yeah.
you were already among our first He for She ambassador. And that picture that I shared earlier was
Mm,
actually your answer to why you think it's important. What does it mean to you to celebrate International Women's Day as a man? So you've
mm,
been, involved the whole journey for She Network, and today you are not just officially our He for She ambassador, but you are also inside our expert panel.
mhm.
So, what is She Network to you?
Mm, I think just as I shared earlier, it's really about building that community of supportive people, of people who believe in empowerment for one another. This is a wonderful initiative that you started, Joy, and especially with technology, it can be international. It's not restricted to Singapore or Malaysia.
Mm,
And then in a sense, I believe this will help us to cross those cultural, societal boundaries that, we as human beings, in a perspective of social psychology, we need to belong. There's an intrinsic need to belong to a group. And instead of a group that is toxic or negative and all that, why not a positive, empowering group that believes in the members, that believes in one another, that encourages one another? I wish there were more and more of such networks out there. I mean, I'm trying to create
mm.
one for men, but men is notoriously hard to work with. Down to the gender traits. I don't think it's really gender traits. I think it's due to social conditioning since young. That's why men are the way they are. I think it's really, really difficult to get men to come together and talk. I've been trying to do it for a while just before COVID started and all that. And I tell you, it's like trying to pull teeth from a tiger or something like that. But when they open up, when they do become vulnerable, wow, it's a very powerful thing. The stuff that pours out of them is amazing to witness. And yeah, so definitely kudos to you, Joy, for creating this group organization platform, to really give that space for people to talk about things that often we're
Mm,
too busy to even think about in our daily lives because we're all working and everything. But I
mhm.
think it's important to talk about these things lah. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mervin, for being part of this network as well. It's experts like you who come in and support me that makes this possible. It is really a group effort. I'm just a fire starter, but if if no one is joining forces with me, then I can't stand alone here. There's no community. So I think all of us have a part to play. Even if you're not an expert in this community,
Mm.
I'm back. So sorry
Yeah,
about
I'm back.
that.
I'm back.
Yeah.
Sorry about it.
So I was
Yeah.
saying, it takes everybody have to participate. Everybody have to show up. I made the first move, but the rest of the step we have to
Mm.
do it together. So, and yes, Mervin has complained to me before as well. Oh, Joy, why you only empowering the women? What about the men? So you yourself try to do that for men, and challenging for you. Imagine what it would be for me. But still, nevertheless, this has a nice to share. Like, we are going to have an upcoming show on the Super Pack page for Strength Space conversation on Super Monday, and Mervin is joining in the conversation. We are going to explore the relationship of how men relate to the strength of compassion, because I
Mm.
noticed that not just women, men struggle too with self-compassion. So it'll be a very interesting and I think important conversation to have with not just Mervin but a few other men as well. So everybody can join in and participate in this. I think a very meaningful and significant conversation. So stay tuned for that. So, Mervin, you have been, so now that
Mm.
you are a he for she ambassador in the She Network, and you have also stated earlier that you wish there was more network, with the similar nature like this. So, what do
Mm.
you think are the benefits of having the male presence, the male perspective within a community like She Network?
Mm. I think most importantly, like I mentioned, is the idea of solidarity kind of thing, because if it's just too lopsided, if it's just based on a particular group, there could be certain biases that can be perpetuated against the group. But when there are outsiders, so-called outsiders, and like in this case, if you're talking about a gender-based group, where it's predominantly women, and if there's only women down there, then people are going to be outside, going to be like saying like, hey, they're being exclusive, they're excluding men, and all
Yes.
that kind of thing. Whereas on the other hand, you might be challenging to find men supporting such initiatives at the same time, because they might worry how they're being perceived and all these sort of things. In fact, there were research studies that showed that men who are feminists who supported women, they tend to be bullied. They tend to be insulted. There are all sorts of studies around this area actually about the gender issues that people face. But I feel that this makes it all the more important for men to step up, to support our wives, our mothers, our daughters, our sisters, in all these areas lah, that they may be facing challenges in. It's not just enough that men support men, women support women, but it should work regardless of gender. Regardless of gender, that we are all human beings at the end of the day. We are all
Hmm.
of finite value and worth. And we need to recognize that in one another. So I guess that's really pretty much why I'm here. To
Hmm.
to lend that support by my presence, and also maybe even in other certain areas, giving different perspectives or whatsoever that I may contribute somehow lah. Yeah.
Hmm. Yes, so as you can see, Mervin is a perfect representative, a perfect candidate being our he for she ambassador because he is pro-human. To him, it's not about male or female, it's about humanity coming together as a group supporting one another. So that is in perfect alignment with our positioning as well, She Network being he for she and she for he. So let's talk
Mm.
about something more practical than Mervin. So what do you
Mm.
suggest men should do to be he for she's in their daily lives?
I think it's really stepping up, man. Well, first off, comes to mind is showing more appreciation and gratitude, for the little things. that the women in our lives, or not just women, maybe everybody in our lives, for the things, how have they made our day better? How have they contributed? A lot of things we take for granted, and which I think is very bad for relationships. It's very bad for people. So I think there's a lot of room there to show appreciation for one another. Thank your partner or your mother or whoever for cooking or whatsoever it may be. I don't know. I'm just thinking that I cook myself also like cooking shouldn't be just a purely woman thing. Men can cook also, that kind of thing. But other than appreciation and gratitude, you're also really having conversations and listening. I mean, okay, this one is going to sound a little bit sexist, but based on my past experiences, also it's like one time a friend came to me and then he said, "Hey, Mervin, my cousin, she called to complain about something and share about the problem she had," and he was like, he started giving solutions, and then she got angry, and then he was like, "Why you got angry, Mervin?" And I say, "Bro, she just wanted someone to listen. She didn't want. I mean, this is not a I think it's also another social engineering thing already because I realize that women who do that as well. When you talk to them about your problems, and then they start giving solutions as well. It could be a I don't think it's a
Societal
really
issue. Yeah.
yeah, it's a societal issue. The way that boys and girls are raised, kind of thing, lah. And so I would say to men out there that if your partner or your spouse or your child or whoever wants to talk about something, just shut up and listen. And sometimes I know it's really hard because sometimes you really want to dive in, you want to be the hero, you want to like solve all their problems and protect them. But sometimes you just gotta be there supporting them in intangible ways that there's no KPIs or ROIs, and this sort of thing. You're not like getting 10 out of 10 in resolving a problem, but we gotta trust that women are problem solvers also. In fact, I think women are amazing problem solvers. But it's just once again maybe it's a gender societal kind of conditioning that women are helpless. They are afraid, and the guy has to hop in and be a
Tell me.
Superman. Yeah, it's like that kind of thing. So just sit down, listen. Empathize, show some compassion and kindness and understanding to the partner. I think that really, really goes a long way as well. And I think on the third level would be more of, if we see injustice being perpetuated in our society, what are the conversations, what are the actions that we can take to address that sort of injustices that is happening right in our faces. Take in, for example, the recent case, I'm sure everyone knows of it, of the domestic helper from Indonesia being accused of stealing items and 4 years of court battle. If she had pleaded guilty, she would be back in Indonesia within 2 years. But she fought. And I think it's probably because of her value systems, the way she was raised, the parents told her, you stand up for yourself and believe. And so I think there is a lot of such injustices happening in our society, and as men, if we see something being perpetuated towards women, we have to stand up. We have to say that it's not right, and instead of just keeping quiet and sticking with the status quo, because if you stick with the status quo, nothing is going to change, right? I think basically what comes to mind are these three areas.
Those are really very realistic, very practical things that can be done. Showing mindfulness to show appreciation for the
Mm,
women around you in your lives that make your life comfortable and who yeah, it's so easy for us to take things for granted. I think this is also a human thing, not just
yeah.
men as well. Yeah, but maybe men might be always sometimes can be lost in their own thoughts
Mm,
or and learn to come out from your shelf once in a while to say hi and show appreciation for the women around you and for other people as well. So,
mm,
Mervyn, you have two lovely daughters yourself.
mm.
So, as a father, what are some of your concerns for your daughters?
Well, predominantly the teenagers right now, so there's a bit of a struggle to deal with. But oh well, it's for all parents. The teenage years are the years in the wilderness kind of thing. The prodigal son waiting for them to come home. But the key areas of concern. Okay, this is quite an interesting thing. Recently, I was doing a mentorship with this company called Praxium, where I mentored some youths on the areas of psychology and psychotherapy. And recently, the company's intern contacted me. She didn't say she was an intern, but I figured out she was an intern. How did I know? It was the way she conversed with me over text. She kept apologizing for everything, which I found really, really strange. And I realized that she was an intern because my previous intern was exactly like that, forever
Oh.
apologizing for nothing, And so I messaged my friend, who is also a graduate of the school who works in the company. I said, "Is this person an intern?" And she said, "Yes." Then I said, "Yes, I know because she apologizes for everything. I literally, even before you say anything, she already apologized, which I found really, really strange.
Mm.
And, and she said that she observed it predominantly in girls. She said only girls, but actually I've seen it in guys also, this sort of thing. But generally, happens in guys with very low self-esteem, very low self-worth. They do not think highly for themselves, so they feel that they always have to apologize in case they offend someone or they did something wrong. And so it's like a preemptive apology. You haven't even been told that you're wrong yet, and you already apologize in
Mm.
case you're wrong, which I find actually very disturbing.
Mm.
And the concerns that I have for my daughters are the same concerns I have for youths. In Singapore or Malaysia, as it were, I was seeing a boy for online sessions during the MCO in Malaysia as well, free of charge, pro bono, just to support him because he was dealing with a lot of issues and all that. And so this crosses the gender and cultural barriers already. In fact, if you look at the pure numbers in terms of suicide, boys are higher risk than girls of killing themselves many times over, actually. And this
Wow.
actually goes down the line. It's not even for teenagers and all that. Overall, in Singapore, 71% of all suicides successful suicides are carried out by men. You know,
Oh, wow.
yeah, and so really the kind of challenges that they face, gender aside. In fact, in certain sense, being a woman might actually protect one from the effects of suicide to a greater extent, whereas men are more violent and more lethal when we choose to carry it out, right? But my key concerns also, well, the self-esteem thing is one thing, maybe also because girls tend to verbalize more, so that's why it's more observed in the girls. But I think
More
there's low
observable. Mm.
mm, I think the low self-esteem and everything is across the board. We are raising a generation of children that are quite disturbed. And I think they're quite disturbed because of the way that they're raised on technology, on
Yes.
academic success,
Mm.
and all these kind of things. And I mean, even for my own kids, after studying positive psychology and all that, I try to instill in them the ideas of resilience and growth mindset. That your failures do not define who you are as a person. In fact, your failures are your stepping stones towards success. And that we are growing all the time, and that we should not be limited by what society or our friends define us as, but we are of infinite potential. We're made out of the stuff of stars after all.
Mhm.
But I mean, these are really the pressing concerns. It's difficult times, especially with COVID-19, teenagers being stuck at home. They have a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress and unhappiness, because for their age group they need to go out and interact. They need to receive some form of stimulation, be it physically or psychologically speaking. And COVID-19, I tell you, my clients are getting younger and younger, which
Ah.
might be a good thing in the sense that, yeah, more of them are seeking help,
Mm.
but also the issue there being is, why do so many of them need help? And really is a very big problem. It's a very, very big problem that we are facing, and there's only so much one can do within one sphere of influence. But I am just hoping that we can get more parents, more adults, more guardians, more people into this conversation about how we can help our kids adapt and yeah, face the challenges. The way society is going, the way the economy is going, you are seeing at, there's going to be massive upheavals. By 2040, perhaps 60% of the jobs that we now know will have disappeared or been replaced with something else.
Mm.
So they are growing up in very, very challenging times. It's no longer a case, oh, yeah, you are iron rice bowl, you become a doctor, a lawyer. I mean, doctor, yeah, lah. Yeah, eventually, doctor will always have work no matter what. Lah. But some other jobs like accountants and engineers, some of these might eventually disappear because they can be taken over by AI, by machines, you know. So, yeah, these are my key areas of concern. How can we build resilience? How can we build growth mindset? How can we help people see that they have an intrinsic value in all of them, despite, in our society, we tie so much to wealth, to status, that it's like your job determines who you are as a human being. Your value to society, your value to the people around you is based on your job, which I think is a terrible, terrible thing to think. That what a road sweeper and a dishwasher, they're not important just because they are engaged in blue collar menial work. Well, what if all the road sweepers and dishwashers disappeared? Who's going to sweep your
Mm.
roads? Who's going to wash your dishes? So I think these are ideas that we really need to talk about with the youth to help them to see their worth. I think they're always trying to prove themselves. I need to score that A. I need to perform well in the sports or the music or whatsoever to be of value. And I think that's a very terrible way to see oneself. And I think that's probably causing a lot of the distress, a lot of the unhappiness that we're seeing in the youth today. Mm.
Mm. Thank you, Mervin, for sharing your insight. I think it's such a privilege for us as well, and for the mothers that's in this group to be able
Mhm.
to see the perspective of a male therapist who's very in touch with what's going on out there. I'm sharing in an overall sense what's going on with your clients. So this is, I think, a good thing to consider for mothers. How are you going to build resilience and growth mindset in your children? So this is something that, as you can see, Mervin is asking himself as well. So thanks for all these significant pointers that we may or may not be thinking about it ourselves. So
Mm.
let's looking at things from a more positive note. What do you think it will look like if women would have the ability to step into their strengths and the world is more equitable? And what are your dreams and aspirations for your daughters?
I think that society will only benefit so much more if women step into their strengths, to be empowered, to embrace who they are. At any time when we shy away from our strengths, when we avoid our strengths, in a sense, I feel that it's almost like you're avoiding responsibility because you are a gift to the world. You're a gift to the people around you. There's something in you that will bless the people around you, and that when you shy away from it, you are denying this gift, this blessing. And when you embrace it, when you embrace who you are, the strengths that you have, the only thing you can do then is lift people up. I told my kids before, what is the point of being strong? What's the point of strength? It's to lift people up. It's to help those who are lower or weak or hurt or injured or struggling. That's the whole point of strength in the first place. It shouldn't be to bully or to oppress, but rather to build. You know, so I would say that the world will only benefit from becoming a kinder and more compassionate society. And I don't think that these are strictly restricted to women. Actually, men can be compassionate and kind as well. In fact, I remember one time I stepped into the school, right, and Bernie came out and she was like, down there like, Mervin, Pat say that I'm very masculine. And I looked at her and I was like, yeah, well, the truth is I'm more feminine than you are. And then Pat burst out laughing and she's like, yeah, that's actually very true. In fact, what Mr. Lam, one of our lecturers, once said in class was that the healthiest individual is actually a perfect balance of masculine and feminine traits. there's a masculine traits of aggression and dominance and all that, which may be necessary during certain times, but there are also equally the feminine traits of being compassionate and kind and nurturing and empathetic and all that. And so, I mean, if you're a woman and your strength is a male trait, unfortunately, in our society, there are prejudices, there are biases, and all these are documented in research that women who display masculine traits, strengths that may be more masculine in nature, they may, well, yeah, I'm saying may just make it sound nicer, face some sort of discrimination and all that. And the opposite is true. Men who display feminine traits, strengths that are more feminine in nature, they also face the same kind of oppression. They don't get they don't get promoted. They don't move into leadership positions because they're being viewed as weak or soft. And I think, so once again, if there's a woman out there who's intelligent, smart, kind, and everything, and very aggressive and all that, and she can bring all sorts of changes into a certain sphere. Look at the women of the past, the amazing women who stood up and stepped out and did all those amazing things. If they had bowed to societal pressure, to like, just stay at home, stay in the kitchen, and all those kind of things, they may
Mm.
never have achieved the things that they were able to achieve. And I ask myself, throughout the course of history, how much have we lost? How much opportunities have we lost because women were not given that position, or because of the stigma that they had to face, that they couldn't step up and really do those things. So I mean, even especially for kids and children, they need to be empowered. None of the nonsense of like, boys play with guns and girls play with dolls. In fact, when I was having a massage downstairs a couple of weeks ago, okay, this is really random, right? A massage, but anyway, one of the guys, he was like saying, "Wow, my son played with Barbie doll." And I was like, down there, well, what's wrong with that? And then another guy was like saying, "Oh, maybe he's ahead of the crowd." I kind of think make the guy feel better, like, "Oh, your boy is in a sense playing with girls," kind of thing. And but I think, yeah. And even my close friend, her son, he's very into stitching, and he's only like what 5 6 years old, and she sent me a photo of him with a soft toy that he stitched, a penguin, I think. And it's so cute. I thought it was like bought from the store, you
Oh,
know,
wow.
and yeah, and he's very shy about it. He's very shy. Like if there's other people around, he become very defensive and all that. And so we are trying to normalize for him. I mean, I myself I do cross stitch, you know, which I do receive some crude jokes and all that when I was in the military and NS, but I didn't really care. I never really cared what people thought. And I think it's that courage to not care what people think, to really authentically embrace yourself. That's where you can truly exercise your strengths, because otherwise you're always trying to please people, and the detrimental side effect may be that we are utilizing our strengths in the wrong way. That we might be, number one, either suppressing it, or secondly, we're utilizing it in the wrong way to please the people around us instead of stepping into the position or the place that we're meant to be in, kind of thing. So I mean, especially so with kids and everything, I want them to know that, hey, it's okay to be who you are. You want to play with dolls, play with dolls. You want to bake a cake, bake a cake. You don't have to be what the world wants you to be. I mean, we're thinking about it. We're all unique. We're all unique, and that's for a good reason, because the world needs unique people. We don't need drones. We don't need worker bees. We need unique individuals who can bring forth their strengths to create a positive and lasting impact in the society around us. And maybe something not even that big. It doesn't have to be that big. I always tell people, you start small. Start from where
Mm.
you make that change and do it for yourself. Do it for yourself first and foremost. Then you do it for other people, kind of thing. Mhm.
Thank you, Mervin. And I want to acknowledge you, and I'm not the only one because our good friend and also a She ambassador came in to say hi.
Oh, hey, hey, Yana. Oh my gosh, we were just in a meeting earlier.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right.
And Yana says that you are doing an amazing job supporting families.
Oh, thank you, Yana.
And clearly, this is your superpower strength that Yana wants to acknowledge you at the moment. And we, in the She families, also have a privilege to tap on this strength that you have, Mervin, which is Just to list a few, the strengths of compassion and empathy.
Mm. Thanks, Yana. And I mean, Yana also has amazing compassion and empathy as well. You know,
Yes,
she's a superwoman in her own right. In fact, recently a student who attended one of her talks was like telling me, yeah, and he was also reiterating the same thing. It's amazing to be in the presence of Yana's compassion for
yes.
people. And I think, there's never such a thing as too much compassion. In fact, we need more of it in this world, both for ourselves. Self compassion is very, very important because if we can't be compassionate to ourselves, it's very difficult to be compassionate to others as well.
Yes, and if you need some compassion inspiration, you have to check out our Celebrating She Is Strong show because Yana was the very first She in Spotlight. Check out that episode. It was, I think, still the most moving episode for me, where her colleagues, her family, her son came in to acknowledge her mom's strength. So wow, it's amazing. So I'm really glad to have friends like you, Mervin, and to have friends like Yana, and all of you coming in to participate and support the She Network. It is really a huge privilege for me. So it makes me feel that She Network is really for all of us, and not just for individual, but we can do and make a difference in society and support one another together as a community, as Mervin has shared. So I'm really curious at this point, and I want to ask you, Mervin, what are some women leaders that you admire and respect, and why?
Okay, I mean, the one that really comes foremost to mind, well, Yana is one of them, of course. She's really leading the way with positive psychology,
And
giving
compassion,
talks,
yeah.
giving workshops and all that. I mean, she's amazing. She's a firecracker, really all over the place. I don't know how she does the 110 things that she does, man, but she is really amazing, and she really touches the lives of the people around her. And so I would say we're really privileged to have her as a lecturer in the school because, it's like so transformative. The people who go through the courses, the kind of growth and change that you see them go through. Lah. And well, one other woman leader that comes to mind immediately with this question is the New Zealand PM, right, Jacinda Ardern. The way she led the country in the COVID-19 crisis, the way she has responded, but not just that, it's her leadership style, where she's not afraid to be strong, right? But yet at the same time, she's not afraid to be compassionate. In fact, I think she talks quite a lot about this topic,
Mm,
and I think I wish every world leader was like her. There's not just about blustering and appearing strong and appearing aggressive and hyper masculine and all that. I think that is so backward. That should be left to the dark ages kind of thing. That we need to be more collaborative. We need more collaborative world leaders if we want to deal with the COVID-19 situation. If we want to deal with the with the way the economy is changing, we need more compassionate leaders out there who care about people, who nurture the society, who can be empathetic. The empathy is not a weakness. Empathy is a superpower that brings about collaboration and mutual support and help. We can't just keep be me, mine kind of mentality kind of thing, right? Where we often see in a lot of countries leaders. They become very protectionist. It's always about our country, our citizens and all that, which is important. Of course, we need to meet the needs of our citizens and all that, but on the world stage, instead of like fighting over territorial waters and all these kind of things, or accusing one another of spying and espionage and all that. Why can't we have more leaders like her, who is courageous and in fact, I think it takes courage to be empathetic. It takes courage to be kind. It takes courage to be compassionate in a world that often tells us that those are weaknesses. In fact,
mm,
I have a very close friend, Abraham, who was interviewed here before with me for the Homeless Hearts. He
mhm.
told me he was being criticized for being compassionate and kind. And I told him, no, 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 no. If you ask me, those people who criticize you, they are the ones who are weak because they're holding on to outdated ideas of masculinity. And I said that you are compassionate and kind is your strength, and is your gift. You know, And I think it kind of helped him feel better after that. But it is what I truly believe in. All this like so-called alpha male. Which has the truth. The guy who wrote the book, he tried to pull it off the shelves, but it's selling so well that he couldn't pull it off the shelves. The publisher refused to discontinue publishing because it sells so well. It reinforces the hyper masculine alpha male idea. Whereas when he did further research, he realized that no, actually the real alpha males are compassionate. The wolves, they take care of the young, they parent the young, and all those kind of things. The traits that we would think of as being feminine was the actual traits that you would observe in a successful alpha wolf. So I think we need more women to step up in that capacity, more leaders, more outspoken ones, to have the courage to stand up and to speak up, and to say that hey, the old ways of doing things are outdated. It's time to get on with the program. It's time to move on with the times, to move on to a future. That we no longer limit ourselves or our children. I think that's the greatest gift we can give to the next generation, actually, to raise more women leaders, to show little girls, that they can do anything that they set their mind to. That their gender, which bathroom they use, which toilet they use, should not be a limitation of what they can achieve in this life that they have. Mm.
Mm, definitely. And it's very interesting for me to note that your female women role model is the same as what Kevin has mentioned last week. It's very interesting for me that our he for she ambassador have such light minds, and it's such a wonderful, wonderful energy that everyone is in alignment. And I'm so happy that you guys are the ones. I was very clear I wanted for my ambassadors for the She Network. So
Mm.
I know that we have a lot of strong and powerful and influential women in this group, but there might be still women who is struggling to embrace, right, to own up to their strengths, to show up in society. So, what would you say, Mervin, as a he for she ambassador, and perhaps also as a male therapist? What would you say to some of these women who might be still struggling to embrace their identity?
I would say take gradual steps towards it, lah. You don't just jump off the cliff, right? Sometimes these changes take time. It takes commitment, and it's a lot of overcoming adverse conditioning since young. In fact, I have another student slash friend who it was quite interesting when I met her. Uh, I did an exercise with her on strengths, and she just couldn't. She just couldn't. She just couldn't say what her strengths were. I've seen
Wow.
it. I've actually seen it quite a bit, but in her case, it was actually quite bad. It was actually literally couldn't say anything. It was only after much coaxing then she could actually say something. But you could see that I think probably from upbringing and everything. I mean, there's this idea of humility. We shouldn't praise ourselves. We shouldn't talk about ourselves. It's a very Asian thing as well. Where parents don't praise kids, you praise them, the head gets too big and they get proud and all these kind of things, which is actually not true. Research has shown that when you talk about strengths with kids, they actually grow up, more well balanced, more motivated, performing better, and better self esteem and all these kind of things. So that once again, those kind of outdated thinking, oh, I cannot talk about my strengths because I'm proud, I'm boastful. Those are negative programming that came from our parents and grandparents. That is not intrinsic. It is a behavioral inheritance in a sense that it got passed down generation after generation. And then the question here is, so what are we going to pass on to the next generation? You know, what are we passing on to next? Are we going to pass on to them the exact same kind of internal narrative that we have inherited? Or are we going to change that internal narrative that we have inherited? A lot of people, they say, I can't help myself. I can't do anything. Once again, those are injected. Those are injected because when you're young, probably someone told you, oh, you're small, you can't do this, you can't do that. Or you did something wrong and you're being told you're useless, you're stupid, you're dumb. And all this external programming becomes internalized over the years until it becomes like what Stefan would call a DJ in your head. They're spinning and constantly like, you can't do it. No, you're weak. No, you don't have strengths. No, if you talk about strengths, you are boastful. You are proud. Blah blah blah. I think it takes greater humility to embrace your strengths. Actually, I think there's false humility and true humility. The false humility that's injected, that is societal pressured into us, that we cannot stand out. I mean, especially Asian culture, we want to conform. We don't want to stand out of the crowd. So that is another layer of why some people may struggle with embracing who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so back to the student slash friend, I think now is better. She can speak up more, but I can still see that she still is a work in progress. It's always a work in progress. I mean, honestly, she's a wonderful lady. She's like so full of energy, so optimistic, so loving and kind, and so giving. I mean, all these are strengths I see in her, but she can't articulate it herself because of all the conditioning that she's undergone from society and maybe from her family. I don't know. I never asked her about that, but I just speculate or hypothesize. So for women out there, I mean, it's not going to be an overnight thing. It's not going to be an overnight thing. You just have to slowly work at it. You know, because in denying yourself, you're actually denying the world, the best version of yourself. You're denying your children, your loved ones, your colleagues, the best version of yourselves. You're not meant to be hidden from the world. You're meant to be a part of the world and not just conform, but to be unique. And yeah, I mean, otherwise, then I'll be saying, yeah, maybe see a coach or see a therapist to work on such areas here. So, or who knows, maybe take out a course at the School of Positive Psychology. Yeah.
I mean, they all work as well, but you need to be willing to do the work. It still start with yourself, right? Then you can get whatever other support you want. The great
Mm,
news is I'm here. You're here, right? And we have amazing people like Yana as well in the She family. So that's what I mean. But there's so many talented and wonderful and resourceful people, positive people in the community. So learn to reach out. Tap. We don't have to do this alone. We are meant to be together, collective strength. So thank you so much, Mervin, for all your insights. And I think that you making me very glad and just like a confirmation to you being a perfect candidate for being a he for she ambassador, not just being able to lend your strength as a male, but the very fact that you're also a therapist and you're also into positive psychology, I think brings a lot of strengths into the community. So at this point, I do have a lovely double joy surprise for you. Just my
mm,
way of saying thank you to you. So I thought that, hey, what more better than to have more people joining the party and acknowledge you for being our he for she ambassador with another he for she ambassador.
Hi, hey, Kevin.
Hey
Hi.
Mervin, hello Super Dad.
Hey, trying to be a super dad. Lah.
Same here, bro.
Yeah.
Trying, and I think that's the most important thing that we actually try and keep
Yeah.
trying and keep
Yeah.
trying. Yeah,
That,
and
that's
actually, we don't have a choice but to try, right?
yeah, like, I mean, it's a commitment that we got for ourselves. How to run away,
Yes,
and then you can't. You just gotta keep trying.
yes, indeed. Oh wow, I was just wanted to come in and say hi. You're not alone. There are
Mm,
other he for she's out there raging to support the she
mm,
movement. Yeah,
mm,
and of course it's tough. As guys, we know of the stereotypes most guys have with regards
mm,
to women, and we are also sometimes seen to be the enemy if we are too forth outright in terms
yep.
of our support for women empowerment.
Mm,
But I think as parents, especially as single dads to our daughters,
mm,
we have no excuses, and of course, we have every reason as well to support the women empowerment.
mm,
So, having listened to you share and interact with Joy during this video recording session and the live broadcast has been very inspiring. Oh my goodness, man! I literally do mean what I say. I salute you
eh,
for being you. And I think that's the most important thing, Mervin, that you are being yourself, and that in
Mm,
itself is inspiring to somebody like me because sometimes we second guess ourselves as
yeah,
men, we
yeah.
second guess ourselves as single parents, and
Mm,
of course we witness our own children second guessing themselves,
yeah.
and uh, and the women around us as well, our moms, our aunties,
Mm,
our all the women around, our colleagues as well.
yeah.
And what we have shared today is extremely powerful, and certainly you can feel it coming from your heart. So that's kudos to you, man. So once
Hey, I
again,
told
I
you
salute
back
you.
you up, bro. I mean, at the end of the day, Kevin, I mean, I liked you ever since I first met you and Joy brought you to visit us in Singapore and everything, and the things that you share, I can still remember after the session and all that kind of thing. So, Kevin, yeah, it takes great courage, but I think, yeah, also because both of us are pretty much on the same page, being a single dads and everything. And like you said, someone has to step up, right? And yeah, I'm very glad that you stepped up as well, and I think you have so much to contribute in this area as well. And I think especially for you, enjoy being in Malaysia, which is, I would suppose, more patriarchal than Singapore in some sense, because Malaysia is Singapore minus 10 years in the attitudes and everything, right? So
Uh
I
huh.
mean, work cut out lah. But I mean, I always consider myself half a Malaysian anyway. My mom's from Malaysia, so you know, I mean, the ways that we can contribute. I think, Kevin, you bring a lot into this as well. Don't downplay yourself. Don't second guess yourself. You bring great value. I mean, I'm just glad that Joy found such an amazing partner to support her in what she does, and for yourself, yeah, I think in this sense, it's also you coming into your own, embracing who you are, your strengths, and just having that courage to go against what the norms are. And we all know children learn best through modeling, right? And I mean,
Mm,
what better way for them to learn than to see daddy doing the things, putting his money where his mouth is. So you're doing a great thing, and I think this is only going to bless the future generations down the line, of children and everything. And I guess as this network grows, the he for she network or she for he network grows, it's only going to benefit more and more people. I think it should become a part of a resource, especially I think once again with the youth, with the teenagers, with the vulnerable groups. Yeah,
mm.
my student, one of my mentees just texted me asking if I can contribute some ideas to some well-being Instagram page they set up. I was encouraging them, to do their part, and in fact, out of my mentees, only one was a guy. The rest were all girls.
Oops.
I
But
mean, traditionally,
what it starts with one. Huh?
yeah, it starts with one. I mean, traditionally, the area of psychology and all that has always been a more female area of study. I mean, just look at our classroom. The gender ratio is damn disproportional. Sometimes we even have
Mm,
only one guy in the entire class. But now it's getting better. Lah. Now it's getting better. We are seeing more and more guys attending the courses, and yeah, I think that's a very hopeful sign. I think that's a very, very hopeful sign that men are seeing that it's okay to look into psychology, look into empowerment, look
mm,
into positive psychology and all that.
indeed.
All right,
Well,
you're not these two men who are raising empowered women aware of that. Thanks, Yana.
indeed. Thanks,
Mm.
Yana.
Yeah, you were saying something, Kevin. You were saying something.
Yeah, I think it's amazing to hear all the things that you have been sharing, your
Mm,
perspectives, the things that you have wrestled with, and the outcomes that and the conclusions that you have come to,
mm,
having struggled with those things.
mm,
You know, when we combine our strengths and we support the She Network community as well as being he for she's, it certainly
mm,
starts with us. Building a better place, a better community starts with us. What you're doing with the NGO that you have started in Singapore itself, it's amazing, man. So I just wanted to pop by uh,
Right.
uh, and affirm you, affirm
Uh,
you for being who you are, and thank you for that. As a new friend,
mm,
and as a brother, brother in Christ as well, it's
mm,
certainly it certainly is a joy to have met you and to get to know you, and now that we are combining our strengths to support this community and make the world a better place, starting with
mm,
where we are, it's
mm,
certainly a privilege, and I thank God for that.
yes, yes. Thanks for acknowledgement and for sharing that, Kevin. I feel the same. That yeah, we need more people like us also to join the group so that we can only grow lah, and hopefully impact more lives in a positive and empowering manner.
Indeed,
Mm.
indeed.
Wow, thank you guys. Wow, having this like nice buzzy feeling right now in my heart. Yana, would you agree? Oh, so awesome. So thank you for such a lovely chat. I think it's really nice to finally bring in the he for she energy into the she family properly, so that they get to know you guys better beyond your photos. So much more to look forward. And when I'm saying thank you guys for your compassion and your love. So as you can see, the women in the house are really grateful for your presence and thank you for supporting us. And likewise, we are definitely also she for he.
That's awesome. Yep.
Okay. Thank you, he for she. Thank you, Marvin, and thank you,
Mm.
Kevin. So stay tuned next week for our third he for she ambassador, Alia. So I'm also looking forward to chatting with this amazing guy, big-hearted guy, who is also a twice cancer survivor. I think that we're also going to benefit so much from this person who has been through a lot in life and now is
Mm.
such a fervent volunteer himself. Wow, seems that we actually have a lot of volunteer workers in our midst as well. So great energy, great family going on. So we have so much more to look forward together. So please stay tuned for next week episode with our chat with our third he for she ambassador as well. Thank you for watching and please leave comment to also support our ambassadors for showing up. Thank you everyone. Have a great and awesome weekend ahead. Happy Friday.
I